This is happening right now in Jerusalem, 3:19 in the morning. The streets are almost empty. The lights are dim in the old alleys, and suddenly, something that no newspaper reported, something that no camera could explain, took over the city. Thousands of people simply froze, frozen, unable to take a step, unable to open their mouths, trapped in an instant that seemed outside of time. Can you imagine that, my friend? I'm going to tell you something that will send shivers down your spine. Witnesses say it wasn't out of fear. It wasn't out of danger. It wasn't out of cold. It was because of a presence, something so strong, so real, so beyond any logic, that their bodies couldn't take it. Their legs stopped, their hands stopped, even their blinking stopped, as if God had pressed pause on history for a few seconds just to grab the attention of a distracted generation. Do you realize how extraordinary that is? Think about it. Jerusalem, 3:19 a.m., the darkest hour before sunrise, the old city silent, a few going to pray, others restless, sensing in the air that something was about to happen. A restless spirit, a racing heart, a different weight in the atmosphere. You know when you feel that heaven is closer to earth? It was exactly at that moment that everything changed, without warning, without announcement, without a countdown. At 3:19 sharp, a sound. No siren, no thunder, no explosion. A sound that didn't come from just one side. It came from all sides at once. It entered through the ears, but also the chest, the mind, the soul. And in the exact second that sound echoed, whoever heard it froze, stopped, frozen. A man said he was left with his foot in the air, unable to finish the step. A woman was left with her hand still, outstretched, unable to complete the movement, as if time had been cut in two. Before and after 3:19. Now comes something that will impress you. God does nothing without purpose. 3 and 19 is not just a number on the clock. 3 and 19 points to a prophetic code. In John chapter 3, verses 16 to 19, it is written that God so loved the earth that he gave his Son, and that light came, but many prefer darkness because their deeds are evil. And in verse 19 comes the heart-wrenching phrase, "The light has come among men, but they loved darkness rather than light." Light, darkness. Choice, 3 and 19. Are you starting to see the picture? Do you know what's most incredible? While everything was still, a light began to appear over the area of the ancient temple. First, a small point, very high up. Then, this light grew, spread, spilled through the narrow streets, the rooftops, the ancient walls. It wasn't streetlights, nor building lights, nor a screen light. It was a brightness so white, so pure, that people say it seemed to pass through the wall and also the hearts of those who were there. A rabbi recounted that it wasn't just light upon him, it was light within him. He felt every hidden thought being exposed, every hidden sin appearing, every lie thrown before the face of God. But there's something you need to understand. The Bible is very clear about this kind of moment. Romans chapter 3 verse 19 declares that everything the law says should silence everyone and place all of humanity as guilty before God. Let every mouth be silent. Do you see how necessary this is? In Jerusalem at 3:19, mouths were silenced. No one could speak. No one could explain. No one could justify themselves. These weren't theories. These weren't assumptions. It was a living portrait of what Romans had already announced centuries before. I'm going to tell you something that deeply moves me. Some people say that trapped in that moment, they heard a voice from within, not through their ears. One woman recounted that, outwardly silent, she heard within her heart, "You are guilty, but I love you. I sent my Son for you. Will you continue to run from the light?" Others felt such a heavy weight of guilt, but at the same time such a gentle grace, that they began to cry inwardly, unable to shed a single tear because even their faces were frozen. It is the light of John chapter 3 verse 19 doing exactly what the text says, revealing, exposing, showing who we truly are. Here's something fascinating. Psalm 31 verse 19 declares, "How great is your goodness! which you have stored up for those who fear you. Goodness kept, goodness prepared. And at 3:19 p.m. in Jerusalem, many people experienced this firsthand. The same light that exposes sin also reveals grace. The same presence that shows guilt also extends a hand to save. These are not coincidences. The details are absolutely precise. Time, biblical texts, light, silence, hearts being confronted all at once. My friend, if all of this is affecting you, if your heart is beating faster just hearing about this light that stops time and reveals the truth, I want to ask you something very clear. If you believe that Jesus still shines a light in the darkness of your life today, write this phrase in the comments: "The light of Jesus awakened me." It's not just a comment, it's a declaration. It's you saying before heaven, "I choose the light, not the darkness." And while these people were still trapped in that supernatural moment, with light covering every ancient street of Jerusalem, something even more powerful began to unfold in their midst, something that would make it clear that it was not just a distant warning, but a direct touch from God upon an entire generation. And when that moment began to move again, when people's bodies began to respond, something impressive took over the streets. The light didn't disappear all at once. It became more intense, warmer, more alive, as if it were breathing. My friend, have you ever felt the sensation that the air around you became heavy, but at the same time full of life? That's exactly what the witnesses said, a presence that left your chest tight and light at the same time. It's hard to even explain. Do you realize how extraordinary this is? I'm going to tell you something that will send chills down your spine. When the light spread even further, figures began to emerge from within it. Silhouettes first, then shapes, then bodies. Not shadows, not illusions, but beings. Beings dressed in white, shining as if made of the very light that illuminated Jerusalem. Men and women frozen in the street saw these beings walking among them, passing through the alleys, touching shoulders, touching heads, touching hearts. Only those who were there know the weight of that touch. But there's something you need to understand. Whenever God sends messengers, the Bible records clear signs. In Daniel chapter 10 verse 6, the angel appears with brightness like lightning and eyes like fire. In Luke chapter 2 verse 9, the shepherds are surrounded by a light of the Lord's glory. In Acts chapter 12 verse 7, an angel illuminates the prison before touching Peter. Do you see the pattern? Light that precedes intervention, light that announces liberation, light that exposes and transforms. And what happened at 3:19 follows this same biblical pattern with a precision that leaves anyone speechless. A man who was there recounted that when the angel touched his chest, he felt as if pure fire passed through his body. It didn't burn, it purified. He said he saw his entire life flash before his eyes, as if God were remembering every crooked path, every wrong choice, every wasted minute. Then he heard a gentle voice saying, "The blood of Jesus has cleansed everything. Now live for me." This is not a story. These are accounts. These are real people, transformed by something that cannot be ignored. Now comes something that will leave you speechless. A woman who was afraid of dying, who had been carrying a tumor for 3 years, felt the hand of one of these beings touch her head. When she was able to move again, the weight on her body had vanished. Hours later, the tests showed nothing. Nothing. As if it had never existed. Another man who could barely walk was able to walk again instantly. He didn't take 3 steps. He ran down the street crying, saying, "Jesus healed me." Do you realize how powerful that is? But why did this happen now? Why Jerusalem? Why 3:19? My friend, God does not do work without purpose. He does not send light without a message. He does not touch without intention. In Amos chapter 3 verse 7, it is written that he does nothing without first revealing it to his servants. And what happened this morning seems like a warning, a call to a generation that is becoming accustomed to darkness, that is sleeping while signs rise up before us every day. Here's something fascinating. Those who were touched began to say things they had never said before. Some began to prophesy. Others saw visions. Others spoke in languages they had never studied. It's the same type of manifestation described in Acts chapter 2 verse 4, when the Holy Spirit was poured out on the people. These are not inventions. These are not assumptions. These are patterns that repeat themselves when God decides to stir the hearts of people. And you know what's even more incredible? Not everyone wanted to receive. Not everyone wanted to change. Even in the face of the touch, the light, the presence, some simply hardened their hearts. It's sad, but Jesus had already warned about this. Matthew chapter 7 verse 14 says that the path is narrow and few find it. Not because God closes the door, but because many prefer to remain where they are. This hurts, but it's real. My friend, before I continue and take you even deeper into this mystery, because what comes next is even more powerful, I want to ask you something simple. If you feel this message stirring your heart, if you want to continue receiving content like this and walk with us on this journey, subscribe now. You know why? Because every video I bring here is made to prepare you, awaken you, and keep you strong when everything around you tries to bring you down. Subscribing keeps you close, alert, and strengthened. And when that light began to move as if it were alive, as if it were calling something greater to happen, people realized that what they were seeing there was only the beginning of something even deeper, something that no one expected. And while that light seemed to breathe over Jerusalem, something new began to happen. The people who had just regained movement began to look around, trying to understand if it was a dream, a vision, or pure reality. But, my friend, the atmosphere left no doubt. It was real. It was strong. It was alive. Have you ever had that feeling that you are in an ordinary place, but everything around you seems different, as if the air were full of meaning? That is exactly what the witnesses said. I'm going to tell you something that will give you goosebumps. After the angels touched the people, after many were healed and others were confronted, a second sound echoed through the city. Not as loud as the first, but firm, penetrating. A sound like a trumpet. It wasn't a human instrument. It wasn't natural breath. It was a sound that seemed to have come from heaven itself. And the people who were there said that this sound went through their bodies, vibrated in their bones, stirred their hearts. Do you realize how extraordinary that is? But there's something you need to understand. In the Bible, whenever a trumpet sounds, something big is about to happen. In Joshua chapter 6 verse 5, the trumpet announced the fall of walls. In Joel chapter 2 verse 1, the trumpet announces a warning. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 16, the trumpet announces the return of Jesus. These are not coincidences. They are patterns. And at 3:19, this sound appeared as if it were a rehearsal, a warning, a reminder that God's clock is closer to the end than many people imagine. Here's something fascinating. Some people said that when the trumpet sounded, they saw as if the light vibrated, as if it pulsed more intensely. One woman recounted feeling a pressure in her chest, but it wasn't pain. It was as if her heart understood something her mind couldn't translate. She said, "I felt that Jesus was near, very near." A man who previously mocked everything spiritual fell to his knees without anyone touching him. He lay there crying, saying, "I need to change, I need God." This isn't made up. These are repeated accounts from different people. Do you know what's most incredible? Many there said they heard a phrase within the light. Each person heard it in their own language, just like in Acts chapter 2. The phrase was, "Prepare your hearts." That's all. 3 simple words, but they carry enormous weight. Prepare your hearts. Those who heard it understood that it wasn't for the city. It was personal. It was direct. It was for each one of them. But now comes the part that will truly impact you. Right after the trumpet, many began to feel as if time had slowed down again. Not completely as before, but enough to make it clear that something was still happening. It's as if God was extending that moment just so that no one would leave without understanding the message. The light dimmed slowly, as if saying goodbye. The angels disappeared one by one, like shadows being pulled into the light. And the sound echoed in the hearts of those who heard it, and you think it's over. My brother, it's not over at all. What happened next left many there trembling inside. Witnesses claim that, as the light faded, their eyes began to see things they had never noticed before. Small details of the ancient stones, marks on the walls, almost erased inscriptions. It's as if the light had revealed things hidden for centuries. Some began to say that they felt each stone told a story. Others said they felt as if they were part of something much bigger than themselves. And you know what that reveals? That when God touches a person, even the place where they are seems different. I'm going to tell you something that deeply moves me. People who carried grudges, traumas, wounds from years ago said that upon hearing "prepare your heart," they felt the desire to forgive. People who hadn't spoken to family members in a long time picked up the phone as soon as they could. People who lived far from God decided to return. People who were trapped in addictions felt the strength to break free. These weren't just physical miracles, they were miracles of the soul. My friend, before I delve into the deeper aspects of this experience, because there's something even more powerful that happened there, I want to ask you something very simple but very important. If this message has touched your heart, if it has awakened you, if you want more people to hear it, click like now. Do you know why? Because every time you press that button, you help this message reach more people, people who might never otherwise hear it, and you become part of something much bigger. And when that light began to recede, like someone slowly closing a door to heaven, something happened at the exact moment the last glimmer disappeared. Something that deeply affected those who were there and made it clear that the early morning of 3/19 was not just a sign, but a direct call to all of humanity. The instant the last trace of light disappeared, something took over Jerusalem. It wasn't sound, it wasn't wind, it wasn't movement. It was silence. A silence so profound, so heavy, so full of meaning that people said it seemed alive. You know that kind of silence that makes you feel every heartbeat? That's exactly what happened. And this silence didn't last just a few seconds. It lasted long enough for everyone there to understand that this moment was not ordinary. It was sacred. It was a direct message from heaven. I'm going to tell you something that will send shivers down your spine. After that silence, a voice spoke. Not a human voice. Not one coming from a street corner. Not one projected by some device. A voice that seemed to come from heaven itself, but at the same time seemed to speak within the heart of each person. Each one heard it in their own language, as already happened in Acts chapter 2, verse 6. The voice said, "This is a warning, do not ignore it." And my friend, that phrase pierced the heart of each person like a sword, because it wasn't a threat, it was love. It was a warning. It was grace extended once again. But there's something you need to understand. The Bible has always shown that God speaks before he acts. In Ezekiel chapter 33, verse 7, God tells the prophet, "I have set you as a watchman. Warn the people." In Matthew chapter 24, verse 42, Jesus says, "Watch therefore, for you do not know the hour." In Revelation chapter 3, verse 3, Jesus warns, "If you do not watch, I will come like a thief." Do you realize how extraordinary this is? What happened at 3:19 follows the same pattern. These are not theories, these are not coincidences. It is a warning, a clear warning, a repeated warning, a warning full of mercy. And you know what's even more incredible? Witnesses said that right after the voice, a feeling overwhelmed them, a mixture of awe and peace. Awe because they knew God was speaking, peace because they knew he was still giving them an opportunity. Some people fell to their knees, others remained silent looking up, others began to cry softly. All felt that this moment was not meant to frighten, but to awaken. Here's something fascinating. While people were trying to understand everything they had experienced, the light, the touch, the healing, the trumpet, the silence, and the voice, the sky began to clear. The sun was rising, and upon seeing the first ray touching the old rooftops, many people understood the symbolism. Natural light arriving right after supernatural light, as if God was saying, "You have seen the light of heaven, now choose to walk in the light of day." This touched many people, because it was simple, yet profound. One witness said, "When the sun came up, my heart burned. It was as if God was saying, 'You have a new day, what are you going to do with it?'" Another person said they felt like they were being given a second chance. A man who had lived far from faith said, "I return to God today, now, without waiting any longer." A woman who had carried guilt for years said, "I felt God cleansing me." What happened there didn't just stay as an experience. It transformed lives. But now comes the part that really hits hard. Not everyone took advantage of this moment. Not everyone wanted change. Some saw the light, heard the voice, but remained the same. Some were indifferent. Others said it was all in their minds. And that breaks my heart, because Jesus already warned about this in John chapter 1 verse 11. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. The light appeared. The presence spoke. But not everyone wanted to accept it. My friend, before I conclude this script with the strongest and most personal message of all, a message that is for you, I want to ask you one clear thing. Leave this phrase in the comments if this word touched your heart. I choose the light of Jesus. That's all, a simple but powerful phrase. A phrase that declares to heaven and to yourself, I know what I saw, I know what I felt, and I choose to walk in the light.